Let's talk about leadership in crisis first. Life will bring you demands to change. The financial crisis is a good example. The crises of political dissent and civil issues, they're the types of things I worry about now.
Any advice, thoughts you have in the good times? What should people be doing to prepare so they're set up to have to make those when, if and ever they have to make tough decisions like that, to do it in a way that's results in the most positive outcome?
So is the heart of your question how to prepare for these dramatic type of events or how to catalyze them on your own, or
Oh, that's a good angle.
which one do you want to take on?
Well, there's two. There's two. There's the element of leadership. How do you show up as a leading? And any in good times can be difficult. So
Okay.
there's an element of leadership and how do you show up? But if you zoom out and look at it from a functional HR perspective, what are the things that HR teams should be doing to be able to make sure if they have to make those tough calls, they know where the skills are and who is in their business?
Let's talk about leadership in crisis first, and then we'll get down to the HR moves, if you will. There are two kinds of crises that I've sort of lived through: COVID and the financial crisis. So, in a very senior role, those are crises that were brought on by the universe that you didn't have a lot of control over, and in my view, those are actually easier to navigate than the crises you have to generate for yourself. For example, a large transformation, absent any catalyst other than your own will.
Yeah.
How you lead through a crisis of your own making versus a crisis that you didn't make are two different things. On the crisis management that you did not make, like COVID, the leadership imperatives are: communicate more than you think you have to, shrink all your time frames as much as you can. You're typically dealing with very dynamic situations and you're living it sometimes hour to hour.
Yeah.
Involve as many people as you can to make decisions, but don't let that trammel your growth, because you've got to move through this in very dynamic period of time before it smooths out. And the HR apparatus needs to have strong communication rails, lots of authenticity, be comfortable with saying I don't know or I can't tell you, and just move through it with as much humanity as you can.
How did that experience change the way you approach leadership?
I wouldn't say these crises fundamentally changed the way I led.
Okay.
I've been a transparent, sometimes too much so, heart-led, intuitive leader from the jump. That just happens to show up pretty well in times of crisis. What it has taught me, though, just as a human, I guess less as a leader, is that humans are way more resilient than I had imagined. I think I used to approach humans with a lot more skepticism than I do now. I think the majority of us are good and we will work together and we will figure it out.
Yeah.
And that has been proven out more often than not.
That's a very lovely notion. Do you feel where we are today, when you talk to colleagues in other organizations, are companies prepared to handle future drastic things like that?
Crises?
Yeah, crises.
The crises like COVID wasn't of our own making. The crises of political dissent and civil issues, these are more in our control, but they're the types of things I worry about now. Citi is a massive operation. We have Ukrainian colleagues, Russian colleagues. We have, in the US, we have colleagues in red states and in blue states. So dealing with dissenting views is becoming more and moving up the chain of capabilities that we have to help other people do. Bring your full self to work, but there are boundaries. And how do you do that relative to your views on any number of issues that I could name right now? That
Yeah.
it's not easy.
This is an interesting way you're framing this, because you are right that we have said bring your best self to work. Bring your whole true you. We want that. We want that for you to do your best work here.
Yeah.
But within what bounds and what constraints? Going back to that constraint and innovation conversation we were happening earlier.
I'm not sure when that became popular, bring your whole self to work. We had the views that we have today of some of the strong viewpoints that we have today. Of course, I believe in it. Of course, I want people to bring their full self to work. But there are limits to how you can talk.
Right.
And if you are going to talk about difficult issues, the way you do it and the way you have to be open is also important. This These are the hard things to teach.
Totally, because the concept of debating and communicating, these are squishy and difficult, and people are trying to work on their day jobs. So it's creating more friction and tax and toil for folks trying to navigate how to manage. It's tough, but it's good to be able to talk openly about it
It is.
because you got to solve for it. It is happening, and if you turn a blind eye, you're not going to be able to solve it. Like the transparent accountability needs to be possible for it to become a solvable issue.
It's true. You have to take in lots of different views, and you can't co-opt yourself into that narrative too fast. It's not easy to do.
There's a parallel too with just information overload, like the ability to filter noise and figure out what matters. There's like a parallel thing happening to humans because of technology and making it harder to synthesize that's relevant for the job to be done in the moment.
That's right. And this gets into this whole echo chamber thing with social media, and you get fed more of what it thinks you want to see. So your view actually gets smaller and smaller and smaller of the world. It's a paradox. With all this contextualization and democratization, you actually have to work harder to get a dissenting view or a view contrary to yours than you used to.
Learning professionals have an interesting role to play here because like everybody's a content creator, but that's not educational content, even though someone receiving it may hear it as.
Totally.
And so it's going to be an interesting time, I think, for our function and practice.